Don't worry, darling. If you blink twice because of the salt burn, I will make sure we get out of this midsummer place and we can go read the menu. The last half dozen years or so have seen our movie screens littered with these kind of stories about luscious getaways involving hedonism and violence, which involve an innocent person being swept up into a place that is full of eerie people and art house imagery. And the ringleader is some sort of charismatic deity that has some strange fascination with our main protagonist. Opus, written and directed by Mark Anthony Green, is another in the long list of these films that we get every few months or so. The story is about a journalist named Ariel who is invited to a listening party for a new album by a legendary musician named Alfred Moretti, which is the first album he has made in 29 years. Moretti fell off the grid some 30-odd years ago, and thus when his team announces his comeback, this causes a media frenzy, and our main character is invited along with 5 other journalists to this compound he is living at. At the compound, they have a full weekend itinerary, filled with delectable banquets, exotic massages, wardrobe stylists, and even pubic maintenance. Our hero becomes trepidatious of the things going on here and attempts to unravel the real events that are happening in this isolated community. If you have seen any of the movies that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, then you'll know what Opus is and what will happen throughout it. The legendary musician is played by the one and only John Malkovich, who plays this David Bowie-style music god, very metrosexual with his demeanor, with a charming and alluring presence. I am such a gigantic fan of Malkovich, especially when he plays quirky characters. And in this movie, he is up to the task. He has some kind of odd respect for our main character, Ariel, and the two performances of these two leads are what saved this movie from being a complete disaster. This is a pastiche work for sure. It doesn't have much of an original bone in its head. If you saw my review of Blink Twice last year, I came down only slightly negative on that film. And for me to properly review Opus, I need to lower my score of that film because Opus is better than it is, thanks to 2 much stronger characters. Channing Tatum is no John Malkovich, and the main character in Opus is much smarter and more versatile than the Blink Twice main character was. I gave Blink Twice 2.5 stars out of 4 when I reviewed it initially, but I thought less of it as the months have gone on and realized it wasn't good at all. So I'm lowering that down to a low 2 stars. Now back to Opus. For me to get into why I like this movie slightly more, I must get into some slight spoilers that are very broad, but if you've seen any of these types of movies, you know where it's going. Opus is nowhere near as organized, structured, or creepy as some of its better contemporaries are, but it has a good premise, and even though it loses itself in the final 25 minutes or so, it is almost saved by how hammy John Malkovich is once the malevolence is revealed. If you ever saw the films In the Line of Fire or Con Air, you will understand that there are very few actors who can go from calm and rational villain to over-the-top crazy monologues like Malkovich can. And when he turns it on after a scene at a children's puppet show, I must admit that I had a huge smile across my face. All the guests invited to this place have a caretaker who stands outside of their door 24 hours a day. And the one who stands outside our main character's door is Amber Midthunder, who I just saw and raved about when I reviewed Novocaine last week. So she's beginning to show up in a bunch of stuff. The character she plays has that Manson family vibe thing going on from the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and she really doesn't have much to say. But she has an aura about her after 2 films where she can be the sweetest person in the world, but immediately a wretched hag right afterward. Keep an eye on her, she has the chops to be a big star. The other 5 people who accompany our main character to this island are all disposable idiots who did nothing but make me roll my eyes, especially the boss of our main character. He is the editor of the place she works at, and is the one who insists on writing the story about the musician. And our main character is supposed to only be the note taker. We're not supposed to like him, I get that, but they made him so dumb and oblivious about everything going on, like he's a character in a Friday the 13th movie. He gets shot in the chest by an arrow midway through, and no one seems to think that this is a big deal and thinks our main character is just trying to ruin everyone's fun. I hate characters like this. One's designed to be dumb for no reason except to give our main character a reason to begin searching around for clues as to what is really going on, then warning them about it afterward. Why can't we just have people in these movies be smart? I know there are dumb people in the world, but since this story rips off a half a dozen other movies, wouldn't you think that any of the 5 people we follow go to the movies ever in their lives? I'm sure one of them has seen the movies that this one is using as its blueprint. Maybe that's too much for me to ask. There are 2 things I must mention that made me laugh at how stupid they were. One, when Malkovich's publicist guy announces to the world he is coming back with a new album, he does so via a YouTube video. And we see the video being played on YouTube. But if you look carefully, the video is paused while the guy is still talking, and the video is still playing somehow. How could you not get something as simple as how YouTube plays videos right? Second, there's a chase scene late in the film that takes place in a house. And there's a moment in it involving a jump scare in a bathroom window and someone hanging on the side of a building that made me laugh so hard because in order for this person to know the exact place our main character was, they would have needed x-ray vision, especially since this happens on the third floor of a house. So the person chasing our hero couldn't see them from the ground level, especially since the main character was hiding in a bathtub. They just knew where our main character was because we couldn't have a jump scare and a chase without it. It was really funny, honestly. In summary, though, I have a serious affection for this movie because I love John Malkovich so much as a villain. But if you don't have that kind of affinity like I do, then I can't recommend this movie if you've seen films like Get Out or Midsummer or any of the films I mentioned, because it's just another one of those kinds of movies. If you've never seen any of those films before, you may enjoy Opus, but I say just rent the top class films in this genre instead personally. I give Opus an affectionate 2.5 stars out of 4. I think this subgenre is run completely out of steam, so I think we need to reevaluate it and come up with something new because I'm getting tired of seeing this every few months. It's getting kind of ridiculous. Okay, so Opus, have you seen it or do you want to see it? Please let me know. I love John Malkovich, so I had some weird affection for this movie, even though I can't recommend it. But anyway, if you like this, please like and subscribe. Here's links to my other videos. Follow me on social media if you like. And until next time, I am Ghost.